It was a Tuesday, hotter than usual, dust dancing in the air like ash off a campfire, and I remember thinking, this can't be happening. Not now. Not after everything. I was standing there in my old work boots, a hose in one hand, watching a city official in aviator sunglasses twist the main valve shut on my irrigation system like he was just turning off a faucet he didn't pay for. His clipboard reflected the sun right into my face as he said it calm as could be. Due to Ordinance 42B, your water allocation has been reassigned to the Oak Ridge Expansion Project. Effective immediately. I just stared at him. I wasn't angry yet. I was too stunned. I mean, for 32 years, I'd paid every bill, every water permit, on time. I didn't miss a single season. And here I was, 5 days away from harvesting the biggest corn crop I'd managed in a decade now, watching my future dry up, one drop at a time. The man didn't even meet my eyes. Just walked back to his SUV, engine humming like nothing had happened, tires kicking up dirt like it was personal. I didn't chase after him. I didn't yell. I just took off my hat canvas, sun faded, Martha's stitching still holding in the back, and rubbed the brim between my fingers like it could tell me what to do next. My name's Walter Briggs. I'm 69 years old. Marine vet. Widower. I run a 38-acre farm on the edge of Bridge Hollow, Texas. It ain't big, but it's mine. And when my wife died 6 years ago, it became more than just soil and seed. It became home in the truest sun-sea place where memories were planted just as deep as the crops. Folks around here know me. Not because I'm loud, I am not, but because I show up, do what I say I'll do, and never ask for more than I need. That's how I was raised. That's how Marines are raised. So when that valve shut off and the water stopped flowing to my fields, it wasn't just a utility being cut. It was dignity. It was livelihood. And in some quiet, gnawing way, it was betrayal. The official reason? Progress. A glass and steel corporate park funded by out-of-town investors promising growth and jobs. They needed the water more than my corn did, apparently. Future over nostalgia, one councilman said later in the meeting I wasn't invited to. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my porch with a flashlight, sketching out a gravity-fed irrigation system using the backup well on the south end. The water's brackish, not fit for much, but it was something. I started rigging hoses and tubing before the sun came up, giving each row of corn just enough to keep its head up in the heat. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't even legal, apparently. By day 2, the heat index hit 102. The corn began to curl like dry paper, blades folding inward like they were trying to protect themselves. I wrapped my cracked hands in duct tape to keep from splitting them open on the rough hose ends. Every drop I gave the soil felt like a prayer I wasn't sure anyone was listening to. No one came to help. Not at first. Neighbors kept their distance, too scared to become targets themselves. Only one soul crossed the invisible line: Lena, who runs the local feed store. She showed up in her old Dodge with a case of bottled water in the bed. "Ain't much," she said, setting it down beside me, "but maybe it keeps a few stocks standing." I nodded. Couldn't even thank her out loud. Just kept working. That night, I wrote in the same journal Martha gave me after I retired from the Corps. I wrote, "If the corn's standing tomorrow, I'll keep going. Marines don't leave their post." But by day 4, I was losing. My backup well was nearly dry. The sun showed no mercy. Every muscle in my body screamed. The lines I'd set up were failing, plastic splitting, pressure dropping. That's when Daniel showed up. 14 years old, skinny as a fence post, quiet kid who used to help me shovel mulch for pocket money. He looked at me like I was some kind of relic. I suppose I was. But he didn't mock me, just picked up a wrench and started tightening a loose joint. As he worked, he noticed the old tattoo on my arm: eagle, globe, and anchor. He asked if I'd really been a Marine. I told him I had. Afghanistan, back before it was on CNN every night. That's all I said. He didn't ask more. He just nodded, like he understood something words didn't need to explain. That evening, I got a letter. Hand-delivered. City seal on top. I was being summoned for unauthorized agricultural water usage from a non-compliant source. Violation of Code 457. Fines accruing daily. I went to that hearing the next morning wearing my only pressed shirt and an old tie that hadn't seen daylight since Martha's funeral. I stood in front of the city council and listened while they explained that my operation no longer aligned with Bridge Hollow's economic vision, that my well was not a sustainable municipal water source, that my farm employed no one but myself. I told them I wasn't asking for charity, just one more week. Just enough time to harvest what I'd sown. The youngest council member leaned in and said, "Mr. Briggs, there are plenty of grocery stores in town. No one's going hungry without your corn." I didn't yell, didn't curse. I just looked at him and said, "If no one sows, who reaps?" And then I left. That night, back on the porch, I saw headlights. A delivery truck slowed down out front. Driver didn't stop, just dropped off a package and drove off. Inside was a single sheet of yellowed paper. Handwriting I hadn't seen in almost 40 years. It read, "Sergeant Briggs still owe you one. R. McKinney, USMC." There was a number underneath. DC area code. I didn't call. Not because I didn't want to, but because I'd never been one to ask for help. Especially not from ghosts. By day 5, I was running on grid alone. I collapsed somewhere between row 19 and 20. The last thing I remember was Lena's voice yelling my name. When I came to, I was in the clinic. Dehydrated. Exhausted. Cooked from the inside out. They told me to stay a few days. I walked out the next morning. And then the sky changed. I was standing in the middle of my dying cornfield, watching dirt turn to powder beneath my boots, when I heard it. Womp, womp, womp. The unmistakable chop of rotors. I looked up and saw a shadow moving toward me. A military chopper CH-53 Super Stallion coming in low. I didn't move. Couldn't. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. The chopper touched down at the edge of the field, wind flattening the corn that hadn't already wilted. And out stepped a man in dress uniform. Silver hair, crisp metals, boots that had seen war. General McKinney. Same kid I dragged out of Kandahar in '84 with a shattered femur and enemy fire 2 clicks behind us. He marched across my field like he still owned the dirt under his feet, stopped 10 feet from me and shouted, "Where's Sergeant Briggs?" I stood straighter than I had in 20 years. "Here, sir." He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Once a Marine, always a Marine." Then shook my hand with a grip like stone. I still remember the look in his eyes, not pity, not pride, just purpose. He pulled out the same paper I'd received. "You didn't call?" "No, sir." He raised an eyebrow. "Someone did." He turned and pointed toward the edge of the field. There stood Lena and Daniel, side by side, staring like they were watching a movie come to life. Reporters showed up within the hour. Phones out. Cameras rolling. And McKinney, he didn't waste time. He told them the story. Told them how I carried him through enemy lines. Told them how now, 40 years later, I was about to lose my farm over a water valve. Then he turned to the city officials standing nearby, all pale and sweating in their button-downs, and said, "You're diverting water to a company that answers to me. I made some calls. They'll want to know they're being prioritized over a decorated vet." You could feel the power shift in that moment. Water was restored within the hour. Volunteers came. Donations. Even a film crew from New York. But I didn't care about any of that. I cared that the rows I'd fought to keep alive were alive. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the barn, General McKinney sat beside me on the porch. No cameras. Just 2 old Marines, watching irrigation lines flow. He asked me, "Why didn't you call sooner?" I looked at my hands still cracked, still bleeding, and said, "Because I'm not used to asking, sir. I'm used to standing." That fall, I harvested what was left. Not all of it made it, but enough did. Enough to share. The town council issued a new ordinance protecting water access for veteran-run farms. My land got historic designation. A mural went up on the barn. A helicopter landing in a golden field, 2 silhouettes shaking hands. But you know what mattered most? The people who used to wave from a distance now stopped to talk, share coffee, ask questions. And Daniel's planting his own garden now. Calls it Victory Row. Sometimes you don't fight to win. Sometimes you fight to remind the land what it's for. Now I've got a question for you. Have you ever stood your ground when the world tried to move you? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about what's worth standing for. And if you believe doing right still matters, share this story. Some battles are lost quietly, but sometimes justice comes from the sky.